Question of the day. What is inflation? Well, it's all the rage these days. And if you've watched my videos in the past, you probably know that inflation is the relative rate at which prices are increasing in the economy. How expensive are things relative to what they were? But I want to go a level deeper here and ask a bigger question. How do we know what inflation is? How do you know? How do I know? Well, the answer actually ties into an index called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. It's a measure that the Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out, and it measures how much things are, a basket of goods, relative to what they were. And so we get a sense of whether prices are going up or down or how much they're going up. But there are actually some flaws with that system that I want to point out today. And I want to go through it not to shake your faith in the system, but to just point out what we know and what we don't know, because I think that's important. So let's talk about the Consumer Price Index. First off, it's a basket of goods, which is determined by survey. They're surveying people on what people are buying. So there are a few problems with that, right? Well, if people are buying Kraft macaroni and cheese, but Kraft decides to raise their prices, they may go to the substitution, right? The Food Club macaroni and cheese. Well, the CPI is not tracking Food Club. They're tracking Kraft because that's what the consumer on the survey told them. So now we're tracking an incomplete price, right? We're not getting a full sense of what's out there. There's also a problem with the locality. Consumer Price Index only tracks prices for urban consumers, not for rural ones at all. So it's actually a misnomer to say it's inflation for everyone, even though they tend to move relatively in the same rate. So I want to leave you with maybe the biggest example of where the CPI can fall a little bit short of perfectly measuring reality, and that is technology. GPS is my example today. And think about how cheap and easy to use GPS is these days, even compared to the early 2000s or especially the 90s. Everybody, almost everybody has one, either in your car or in your cell phone or both. And it's made everything so much more efficient. We get places faster than we did before because we know the best route. Think about it in terms of Amazon's efficiency, where they're sending delivery drivers out, but they're able to calculate the most efficient route from their delivery center to your door. Right? It's saved so much money. It's made things less expensive because it's made things more efficient. Is any of that efficiency being tracked by the Consumer Price Index? No, they don't measure that. They just measure what prices are. So I'm not here to tell you that the CPI is bunk and we shouldn't look at it. We absolutely should. It's incredibly valuable. But what I'm here to tell you is when we're trying to measure human behavior, we have to use the whole world, or in this case, the US, as our experiment. And there are a lot of confounding variables that slip in that make our process not perfect. That being said, it's still pretty good, which is why the inflation numbers are important. But I wanted to bring this up just to let you know that when you hear about what inflation is, that's important. But think past that and think about, how do we know what inflation is? And I think it gives you a better sense of the overall picture.